Okay, so what if everything we think we know about the universe, space, time, matter itself, is all just an illusion? Today we're diving into a really mind-bending idea. It's called Obidi's Theory of Entropicity, and it suggests a totally new foundation for reality, starting from just one single, simple concept.
It really is the ultimate question, isn't it? What is reality actually made of? We're all used to thinking about atoms, energy, that kind of stuff. But this theory, it suggests the answer is something way more fundamental and, honestly, a little weird. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Forget what you learned in high school physics for a second. This theory says that the stuff we can touch and see, atoms, quarks, the whole shebang, it isn't the bottom layer of reality. Nope, it's just a symptom of something way, way deeper. And yeah, the same goes for energy. Those fundamental forces that hold the entire universe together, according to this theory, they're also just shadows on the cave wall, all pointing to something much more basic. Okay, so if it's not matter and it's not energy, what in the world is left? The answer, this theory claims, is pure information. The idea is that our physical world is just a projection of some underlying informational code. I know, it sounds pretty out there, right? But let's break down how this could even be possible. The entire theory really hinges on one big, bold, almost audacious idea. It's a starting point that, if it's true, completely flips our understanding of the universe right on its head. At the very heart of this theory is something called the Entropic Field. Now, I want you to think of this field as the fundamental canvas of the universe. But here's the twist. Instead of being empty, every single point on this canvas is packed with information. And we're not talking about information as some abstract idea, but as a real physical property, just like a particle's charge or its mass. So the big question is, how do you get from a field of information to the actual space we all live in? Well, it's a fascinating chain of logic. The amount of information at each point, that's the entropy, it determines how different that point is from its neighbors. And that difference, that distinguishability, it creates a sense of distance. And as soon as you have distance, boom, you've got geometry. It's as if the information itself is literally weaving the fabric of space. All right, so information creates geometry. That's already a huge leap. But how do we get from this abstract geometric space to the universe we actually see around us? Well, that's the next big piece of the puzzle. So picture this, informational geometry. But don't picture our familiar three-dimensional world. Instead, imagine a sprawling, high-dimensional landscape of pure possibility. It's a chaotic, incredibly complex space with just countless dimensions. So how do we get from that messy, multidimensional chaos to our ordered reality? The theory proposes a process called coarse screening. It's kind of like this. Imagine you have a super high-resolution photo with tons of tiny details. Coarse screening is like zooming out, blurring the image just enough so you can see the bigger picture. It basically filters out all that microscopic quantum fuzz and focuses only on the large-scale structures. And when you do this, when you perform this zooming out, something absolutely incredible happens. Out of all those countless possible dimensions, only 4 survive. And they're not just picked at random. They are the only directions that turn out to be stable, smooth, and consistent over large scales. And what are these 4 stable directions? I think you've guessed it. The 3 dimensions of space and the 1 dimension of time. This theory suggests that our space-time isn't fundamental at all. Instead, it's an emergent property that sort of crystallizes out of a much more complex informational reality. And the wildest part? The geometry of this emergent space-time perfectly matches Einstein's theory of general relativity. This whole idea of emergent space-time is pretty mind-blowing, but it leads to an even bigger, more philosophical question. What does it even mean for something to be real? So usually physicists think of information geometry as a really useful tool, right? A mathematical framework to model reality. But this theory completely flips that on its head. It says the information geometry is reality. The math isn't just describing the universe, the math is the universe. This is a truly game-changing idea, on the same level as what Einstein himself did for physics. See, before Einstein, space-time was just a mathematical background, a stage. He was the one who showed it was a real physical thing that could bend and warp. This theory takes that a step further, arguing that the underlying information geometry itself is the physical reality. So if this informational geometry is the real deal, what does that mean for everything else we think of as real? Well, it means that pretty much all of physics, as we know it, is just an emergent property of this deeper informational reality.
I mean, think about it. If the entropic field is the absolute foundation, then everything else is just built on top of it. Space-time, gravity, motion, causality, even the weirdness of quantum mechanics. And yeah, the fields and particles that make up you and me, they're all just large-scale patterns in the underlying information. At the end of the day, it all boils down to this one simple but profound statement. The universe is made of information, and the physical world we experience is just what that information looks like on a grand cosmic scale. Okay, let's take a breath and recap. We've been on a pretty wild ride, but it all builds beautifully from a single powerful idea into a complete picture of the entire universe. So here's the whole story in a nutshell. You start with entropy, this fundamental field of information. This information then creates a complex information geometry. From there, the process of coarse graining zooms out, and what emerges is a stable, four-dimensional spacetime. And on that stage of spacetime, the entire drama of physics unfolds. It's an incredible logical flow. It really is a mind-bending idea to grapple with. The thought that the universe isn't made of stuff, but of the information that describes the stuff. It really leaves us with this one lingering question. Is our reality just the universe telling itself a story?